Hey guys, today I want to give a little background on natural selection. So we're going to roll through this. Um, so the premise from natural selection comes from the ideology that there are, enormous amounts of time for gradual geological and biological change to occur. Um, the universe is about 14.6 billion years old. The Earth is about 14 or 4.6 billion years old, and we see the first record of life about 3.8 billion years ago from fossils. So that's an enormous amount of time for these things to change. And there's a biological principle that states that given favorable conditions, populations of organisms are capable of exceedingly rapid growth. And this potential for this growth is called their biotic potential. And in the exercise that we did on the previous day, we talked about how to calculate the biotic potential. If you want to know how to do that a little bit further, I can give you a little example here. So for humans, we said that, or at least in the exercise that you can find online and what we talked about, humans have a fertility range, and granted, you have to keep in mind that these ranges are just on the average. Obviously, there's outliers on either side. Some women develop earlier than others, things like that, and can have offspring further on later. And I'm just talking about humans here. Obviously, it's different for other animals, as you can see from the exercise. So the exercise said that humans have a fertile range from 13 to 45, and that is a range of 32 years. Okay, they have a gestation period. So gestation is the amount of time that the infant spends inside the womb, and everybody knows this is common knowledge. Humans have a gestation period of about 9 months or so. Humans generally have one offspring per pregnancy, and again, there are variations on that. Think twins, triplets, all the way up as you go along there. And we typically have 1 year between pregnancies. So that's the amount of time that you generally need to let your body recover. Obviously, you can have a baby sooner, but this is a generalized timeline, or what doctors recommend. So that would be 1 year. Okay. When doing these calculations, I always say, and with any calculations, make sure that your units are the same throughout. So since I have something in months here, and I would prefer not to work with decimals in this, I would prefer to make this all into months. So 32 years calculates out to 384 months. And you can calculate that by multiplying 32 by 12, the number of months in a year multiplied by the number of years that you have. We already have this in months as 9. This is an offspring, not a length of time, and 1 year would be 12 months. Okay, so we have our total months here. Now we're going to talk about ratios. If you're looking at this, you want to know how long it takes to get from baby 1 to baby 2. And if you're looking at this, you can see the time between pregnancies here is 1 year, and that might be your initial reaction to put that. However, there's a gestation period of 9 months. So in actuality, we have 21 months that it takes to get from baby 1 to baby 2. So we can have one baby per 21 months. Okay? I want to know how long or how many babies theoretically we can have in 384 months. So now I can just do some easy cross multiplication. 21x equals 384. Do your math. And this comes out to about 18.26 or 18.3. And I'm okay with either 18.3 or giving it off as just a solid 18, because we can't have 0.3 of a child. So that is okay. So this will be how you complete that worksheet from the previous slide, or from the previous day. Okay, so populations will seldom reach their biological or their potential growth rate just because there are several restricting factors, and we talked about that in the previous slide as well. These can be density dependent factors or density independent factors, and you can go back to the previous slide to check those out. Often variation is found among characteristics within a given species. A great example of this is dogs and how quickly they're able to change phenotypic variation. So most breeds of dog are all the same species of animal, which is Canis familiaris. So these dogs are actually the same species, even though they look completely different. And dogs are remarkable in their ability to change phenotypic variation very, very quickly, and humans exploit that in dog breeding. And this happens in other species too. It's just dogs are remarkable in the time that it takes. Okay, some characteristics that contribute to this are heritable, and these are just genes and traits that are passed down from your parents. And these are things that are selected out. Think survival of the fittest here. Whichever genes are passed along are the genes that are going to make it through. And when talking about that, so individuals with certain characteristics, and you probably can't see this here, let me move this. Individuals with certain characteristics have a better chance of survival and reproducing than individuals with other characteristics. So in other words, there's a natural selection for certain characteristics. In order to find a mate, your mate is biologically inclined to choose the mate with the best attributes. Take peacocks, for example. This is the male peacock, okay, and this is the female peacock. And you can see that the male shows these phenotypic traits simply to attract the female. Okay, and she will make her choice based off of the size and coloration of the peacock. And so the peacock that is the most vibrant, struts his stuff the best, those are the ones that are going to get chosen to pass on their genetic material. So you can see an example of this heritable speciation there. So when we're doing this, consider the peppered moth. You can check this link out here, this video, and we're also going to do a lab on this in the next class period. So there are 3 types of of natural selection, and you can see these defined here. Basically, you have selection against both extremes and stabilizing selection. I'll use weight, for example, here. So if you have super skinny people on this side, so you have skinny, and then here would be average, and this would be heavy set. Okay, you're going to have, if everybody was selecting each other for the average size, then the skinny and heavy genes would die out. Here it would be directional selection or selection to one side. Think just for selection for the heavy set or just selection to the skinny side. And here it would be selecting out for the average. So everybody would go to different extremes. Okay, what is speciation? We've defined this earlier in the unit, so you don't really need to cover it much here. Simply put, speciation is determined between organisms that can have and produce viable offspring, meaning that they can have an offspring and that offspring can have its own offspring. Okay, so there are different isolation methods when we're talking about this here for interbreeding or actual potentially interbreeding. So there's behavioral isolation, think courtship in birds, and sorry, I need to move my face down again here. Courtship displays in birds. Birds that have the best courtship displays are probably going to be able to pass along their genetic material versus ones that don't. Biochemical isolation, think when 2 very closely related species don't produce an offspring. Anatomical isolation, so their organs don't really match up here. There's allopatric speciation. Think 2 things live, or 2 certain types of animal live in completely different places, and so they never interact and thus evolve differently. You have temporal isolation, which simply means that 2 similar types of species mate at different times of the year, and that can cause speciation in organisms. There's hybrids, which says fertilization may take place, but often the offspring are too weak or just are not able to produce their own offspring. Think horse and a donkey here, which would create a mule, or a more popular example is the lion and the tiger, which create the liger. Okay, you can check here to learn more about this stuff and about the father, Darwin, here, that came up with most of these theories. All right, thanks, guys.